All righty, welcome to Flyers Game Day, streaming portion with myself, Jason Martinez, and somewhere amongst those TVs up there, a shadowy-looking Chris Tarian. What's up, Bundy?
Not much, Jace. Good to be here. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of dark here, but we'll do with what we got to do.
Yeah. We'll
all good.
Skate the shift, Bundy.
Yes, we will.
Where I want to start, we're going to join our radio audience in about 10 minutes on 93.3 WMMR and the Flyers broadcast network. But where I want to start with you is coming home from a trip where the Flyers were in Dallas and they were in Vegas, out of time zone. It wasn't an overly long trip. It was just the 2 games in about 5 days. But what is it like for the players coming back in that situation? Because this is one of those spots that we traditionally see in sports where you can have what I've termed a little bit of slippage.
Yeah, and so what happens is that you go away. There's not a lot to deal with on the road, right? Like you're just getting yourself practice. It's, you eat, sleep, and play hockey on the road. And that probably has never changed in the 100 years the league's been around. That's the way it is. It's not guys are getting prepared. They go to practice, they get back. So what happens when you get home and you've been traveling a lot, you're kind of unified as a group. And then you come home and you disassemble for a couple days after the trip. You probably end up missing a practice because of fatigue. You get a Vegas game. That's a long trip out there. To Dallas, it's not like an easy trip. And what happens usually when you come home is you just, for some reason, think it's going to be easier. And you can get caught in that. And they call it the old home game trap after a long road trip. It wasn't a long road trip. This is a dangerous spot tonight. If you're looking at it like the Wild are playing well and they're coming in here and the Flyers, albeit lost, got 1 point on the road, they played pretty well. So mentally, as a collection of players, you can sometimes get yourself caught into that trap, thinking it might be a little bit easier. Hey, we're playing pretty well. Like, we only lost to Vegas. We almost got a point, got to the overtime. Hey, Dallas, we played well. We fought back twice. We got a point in overtime against a good team. That's not what this team needs to do. This team needs to focus one game at a time. And if they really feel like they want to prove to people that they're better than they are, then this is an opportunity for them to stay in the moment, play it one game at a time. But this tonight, to me, from the old adage going back, this is a dangerous game tonight for the Flyers, especially because Minnesota is playing a little bit better, and they want to have a good start to the year too.
Yeah, I think, wow, that is so interesting that you said that. I love what you said, because just the notion of playing at home is, this human nature thing is, we're at home. It's an advantage, the home ice advantage. So you just get this, I guess, mental thing where you go, it should be easier at home because we're home. But that's not the case. That's not how the game's played, right?
Well, go ask the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, seriously, just because you step on the home ice or your home field, it doesn't automatically give you a win. And I always said, Jason, maybe some buildings would find it an insult, but I'll be honest with you, I think home ice, home field, and whatever sport is the most overrated thing ever. It doesn't, if you're going on the road, someone said, you got to play game 7 in a row. I'd be like, great.
Yeah.
It's no different. Sorry to say it, but no different than playing at home, except you have the comfort of coming from, the normal surroundings when you get deep into a game like that. Don't get me wrong. The Phillies was one of the great choke jobs of all time. But when I'm talking about home field, you need to do that. You got to appear it here, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee you anything playing at home in big moments.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I love hearing that from you, a guy who went on many road trips and played road and played home. And I always like to try and crawl into the player's mentality. And that's why I love talking to you about this kind of stuff, because we've traditionally seen it in sport where teams come home and this is, you got the honey-do list when you get home. You got to get all the suits cleaned, all the stuff you don't have to worry about on the road. You're in that environment of road. All the meals are taken care of. None of that. You don't have to take the kids to soccer practice.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really what it is. Like when you get away and, you've had a 10-game, 10-day homestand and you're off on the road. That's why I always see guys like, yes, we get to finally, you're right. You get a break from your kids. You got to just go out and play hockey. No one really wants a break from the kids. But, when you're playing hockey and there's a lot of responsibilities at home, yes, those are little tiny things and that players will deal with in a National Hockey League season. And to be honest with you, Jason, in any season, to be honest with you, if you're playing pro sports.
Yeah, I always said it like guys with young kids, and you had young kids when you were playing.
Yeah.
Oh, the baby's at home? Okay, get me on the road so I can get some sleep around here.
Yeah. Yep.
You talk about this Minnesota team. They absolutely destroy Edmonton in the third period the other night where they were trailing. They end up winning the game. Ryan Hartman's got a 5-point night, a hat trick, and 2 assists against Edmonton. Edmonton can't defend. But let's talk about the Flyers, the way they've defended so far, Bundy. It's not just the D, it's the 5-man unit. And that's really, to me, I look at it, is that what's giving them the success? Is the buy-in kind of across the board and guys knowing the other guys out there are doing their jobs? Is that what you're saying?
I would say so. I mean, again, and they had a good start last year. I always say the first 10 games of the year, if you have a good start to the year, you can really jump on teams, because I think there's a lot of veteran guys through the league that aren't always prepared to start the year. They kind of wean in and hope it's going to be good. The Flyers, I think, were out extremely well conditioned coming into this season, as they always are. John Tortorella team is like that. But they are playing, 4 lines. They're trying to get the matchups they can. They've done a good job. They really have. And, and again, when you look at the team on paper, it may not be what everybody wants to see in the league in terms of how many points this team can accumulate. But they've done, and that's what I was just saying to you a few minutes ago, just keep it one game at a time.
Yeah.
Play it one game at a time. Don't look back. Don't look ahead. Just keep it in the moment and see what happens. I mean, they're not that bad. When you look at them, I think a lot of people, I thought last year was rough. I really did. From the personnel they didn't have the personnel they did have. I don't feel like that at all this year. I feel like this is a pretty good group of guys, a good collection of guys. I texted Jonesy the other day and said, hey, good start, to the year. And he said, yeah, guys really seem to like each other. Sometimes that's a way of kind of laying out to somebody that, you know what, we like our room. It's different than last year, and some of the pieces that aren't here are making a difference for the guys that are trying to find cohesion this year. So it's been fun to watch, but they have to just keep it in the moment, keep playing hard, remember the 2 ends of the ice, and if they don't remember that, then their head coach will do it for them.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
One of the things, Bundy, is Emil Andre got sent down.
Mm-hmm.
He did look a little overwhelmed, maybe not ready for what is a very unforgiving league, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets sent down. And I know some people were fretting that, well, they called up Louis Belpedio and they called up Victor Mete, who's played 247 NHL games. And they said, why aren't they calling up Adard and Yinning? First of all, you don't want to call them up and have them play just third pair, 9, 12 minutes a night. But the other thing is, too, John Tortorella's got to worry about his team playing up meaningful hockey and that environment for his goaltending in the D zone and a little bit of veteran. You still have 2 young guys back there in Cam York, who's 22. And, you have young players on your blue line. Zamula is 23. But you can't have 4 guys under 22, 23 years of age and expect to be playing meaningful hockey for very long.
That's tough. And, again, and the call-ups they're dealing with. I mean, if you look at the Flyers lineup, essentially outside of Sanheim, the 5 other guys tonight, York, Zamula, Walker, Sealer, and Belpedio. I mean, that's kind of 5 guys. Who are they? Even though York was a first-round pick here. But, again, I mean, he's a guy that's going to really have some nights, I think, where he's going to get back and have a look at the video. Torch said as much. He's offensive. He wants to make plays. You got to move the puck. But while doing that, you have to take some chances. And right now, he's just trying to figure out still when you can take those chances and apply them. Again, the other guys in that thing feel the same. Zamula's learning the game still on the go. Sealer's solid, but he's a third pair guy.
Yeah.
Well, that's where he's slotted, a 6-7 type of guy. On a really good team, he's probably the guy that comes in, if there's an injury. But this is what they're dealt right now. And when you talk about the depth that they have in terms of defense, I don't want to say it's a great deep depth, in terms of wow, we have so many kids that are ready to come up. But you have to get those guys minutes, as you said, Jason. And if you're going to play a guy here, 8-9 minutes a night with a chance to play him 22 or 23 in the minors, it's a no-brainer. You have to get that guy the repetitions in the minors.
Yeah, plus just the relative success of it, too. We're getting ready to join our radio audience. So change headsets there, Bundy.
Yeah.
It's always a little chaotic when we're switching over here. That's right. It is time for Philadelphia Flyers hockey. First game of the year on 93.3 WMMR. It's Jason Martinez, Chris Therien, as the Flyers return home from a 2-game road trip to take on the Minnesota Wild here tonight. And Bundy and I were just talking on the streaming pregame show about the young guys playing. Bundy, one of the things that John Tortorella said after the Vegas game in regards to the turnover from Cam York is you want guys to push to make plays. You got to learn from those mistakes. But that's a tough one with just 32 and a half seconds left after what was a very tight game against Vegas to end up coming away with an L. Edmonton, yeah. Yeah, they get that 5-point night from Ryan Hartman. They have 4 players that are more than a point per game player. Joel Eriksson-Ek, Kaprizov's in that mix. Hartman is now as well. But you look at this Minnesota team, they're not going to be a team that finishes the year, Bundy, with 4 guys more than a point per game player. But they got some guys that are really leading the way. The Flyers are a little bit more well-balanced. And you have 1 player over a point per game, and that's Travis Konecny. And he's got to be a big part of it tonight. He did not end up on the score sheet in that game against Vegas. Yep. Agreed. Yeah, Bundy, I talked about this on Flyers Daily, that yesterday, 7 years ago, was the day that Travis Konecny scored his first NHL goal back on October 25th of 2017, or 2016, rather. And he never played a game in the AHL, came right from junior, made the Flyers, had those 3 24-goal seasons, then a couple of down seasons after the bubble. But it kind of speaks to the development of a player and how, your development doesn't all happen in the first 3 years. It's got to continue beyond that. And you may have some dips along the way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because, playing down in the minors, you can develop some good habits and have a little bit maybe of on ice success per se from a statistical standpoint. And does that benefit you in the long run? It's really an interesting dynamic as the Flyers get set to take on the Minnesota Wild. 4-game homestand, Bundy. We have the 2 on the road. The Flyers are off to a 3-2-1 start, as is Minnesota. We got a 4-game homestand, 3 to finish out the month of October. We'll kick off November with a home game against Buffalo. But this is one of those opportunities in the schedule that Flyers, got to keep everything in front of them game by game. But this is a good opportunity to, continue a pretty solid start to the season.
You have some winnable games. I think this is a great night to get started with stuff. If you get Minnesota tonight in a situation where you take advantage of them, you look I don't want to look ahead, as you said, keep it in the moment. But for me, I am going to have a peek. You got Anaheim Saturday. It's another winnable game if you put the work in. So I'm not going to look beyond where we are tonight and Saturday, Jason. But as you said, this is a good opportunity, I think, for this team to really and also from a business standpoint, great opportunity to say, hey, you know what? Philly season's over. Yeah, the Eagles are doing well, but hey, we're the Flyers. We're here. We want you to pay attention to us because we deserve it. And if you're playing good, you're playing well, the fans in this city will show up for you, and they'll understand that you're pouring your heart into the game, and that's what they want to see. So I think from a lot of it, a 4-game homestand in October is a really good thing to really send that message to your fans like, hey, we're here. Come on out and watch us because we're worth it. And I think that's been a hard thing to say the last few years. But I've seen a lot of positives so far to start this year.
The thing, Bundy, is it sucks the Philly season is over. The Sixers begin tonight, which is why we're on 93.3 WMMR. The winter sports, it's that time of year where they can start to come into focus. They have Minnesota, Anaheim, Carolina, and Buffalo on the homestand. Then they'll go back on the road for a home-and-home with the Sabres. Managing the players is one thing that John Tortorella, managing the mind or their, managing their energy through a long season. Did you have coaches along the way that didn't seem to worry about that management this early in a season in managing, your energy as players and your, mental fatigue? Because it can set in, I imagine, pretty quickly into a season for a player.
You know what? I think the more you talk about mental fatigue, I think the more people start believing it. I don't know.
It is one of those suggested things. I agree.
Yeah. Like nobody talked about this 25 or 30 years ago. You go out and play.
They give you a schedule, you play the games.
So that's it. Like I didn't get thinking too much, but now they got everybody over there babysitting, holding hands all day long, and I don't know, dude. You know what? For me, there's a part of this as a sportsman where you got to figure stuff out for yourself, and you can't have somebody holding your hand, walking you down the path to try to get there. I understand there's a busy schedule and young guys get it, but you know what? In the history of the game, the guys that played and they played a long time, they figure it out, and that's what's
all about load management now. Seeing it,
you know what? That's just I wouldn't be very good with that whole wording.
They're doing that with Leo Carlson in Anaheim. Who knows if we'll see him come Saturday when he comes to Philadelphia?
There's a lot of travel out west, I can tell you that. So I understand from load management, traveling around and stuff, it does get difficult. But I hate that word. And but yes, Jason, we have to worry about that because it's a real thing now.
Yeah. All right, stay tuned. Tim Saunders, Todd Fedoruk, they've got the countdown to face-off, followed by all the first period action between the Flyers and the Wild. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.